Hey guys, this is the Real Estate Podcast and it's your host, Alex Kaufman. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I need you to do me a solid. Hit that subscribe button on your phone if you haven't done so already, and share this episode with just one person. It's going to help us get this information out to more people to learn about entrepreneurship and real estate. Thanks. Now let's dive into today's episode.
Doing all the research and your other foot on the gas and keep in what I call getting ready to get ready. But at some point, you're going to have to jump off the bridge or jump off the mountain or whatever it is and grow those wings. And there is something that you don't know right now that you're going to learn in the process. So you'll never know it all before you take action. So if I take it and summarize all of that down to 2 words, it's take action on all the knowledge and the things that you've already acquired.
All right. Hey, everybody. This is Alex Kaufman with the Real Estate Podcast. And today we have a special guest. We got Tyron McDaniel with Houston Vintage Homes. What's going on, man?
Hey, thanks for having me, Alex. Pleasure to be on, man.
Absolutely. So I believe Josh Esparza connected us. You know Josh well?
Well, no, actually, Matt had reached out initially. I don't know what, maybe Josh sent Instagram or something like that. And then Matt reached out and here we are.
Cool. Well, we're excited, man. So what do y'all got going on in Houston right now? Do you only focus on building in Houston?
So primarily, yes. But then there's a caveat to that. So my own personal efforts, let me phrase it like that. Yes, but however, we do projects in other cities. I have set up a subsidiary of our building and development company for Atlanta. And quite honestly, it's in my heart of hearts to really do business there in Austin. So we got some things that I want to do there in the custom space. But outside of that vertical, I have a design firm called Urban Vintage Designs, where we do design and development of affordable housing. And with that particular company, we have things that we're doing that aren't necessarily my projects. We're just brought in to design or consult. And so those projects are, we have some tentative things we're working on in Detroit and Cleveland right now. I'll be in Los Angeles later on this week, actually. Shucks, yeah.
That's fun, man.
So there are a couple of different businesses we have, but my own personal investing and flips and things of that nature and new construction projects that I do that are within our firm or locally, and then we consult and design for people in other parts of the country.
Cool. Okay. And so how long have you been building homes and investing in real estate for?
Sure. So I'm considered an old timer, man. I actually got into the entire real estate space basically in 2000. So I've been around for a little while, but I entered real estate. I wouldn't call it the traditional track, if you will, but I just went more the traditional route. I believe you have 2 worlds of real estate. You have the traditional world, loan officers, realtors and so on and so forth. Then you have non-traditional or off market, if you will. So I started out working in a mortgage office, became a loan officer, then a mortgage broker, got my license. At the same time, my wife was a licensed agent as well. Her career was in engineering. And so we kind of matriculated through that career track of utilizing real estate as a career while buying a house or 2 here or there and flipping a house or 2 or there. Now, my whole mission was to get to what we're doing right now. And so I felt like if I could learn the finance side and then the agency side, it could help me do some of the things that we're doing now. So that was originally how we got started. I built my first house in 2005. And so, yeah, that was where I started.
Is that when you sold it, or that's when you started building it?
Yeah, so that it was towards the middle of 2005. We ended up selling 2. It was a 14-unit development, actually. And we could do a whole podcast on all the lessons that came out of that. So the mission or the vision was to build all 14. I was undercapitalized. It was my first project, made a ton of mistakes. Crucial mistakes. And so ultimately only built 2 of the 14 that I were able to sell. And we had to ultimately another developer to come in and finish the remaining 12.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So you started as a loan officer.
Right.
All right. And then your wife, she was a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then y'all were trying to flip some homes here and there. When did you start, flipping homes? Was that before the development?
Yeah. because so what, we buy, so one of the beauties of this was back, which this is a dead space in the lending world right now, but back then there were what you call subprime loans, or so it's basically people that had 580 credit scores or less. And so we kind of specialized in that space because that was the way I learned the industry. And what we would get is a lot of times we get leads from people who were in foreclosure or pre-foreclosure, and they were looking for a way out they were looking to refinance out or something like that. And there were just some isolated scenarios where there was not a loan available. They called us too late. Like we'd have people call us the week of and say, can you get us a loan? And so, so by virtue of that, we said, well, look, you're 9 months behind, hadn't paid the lender 9 months. There's no new lender that will take on that mortgage. You're going to have to do something. The auction's next Tuesday. And so we had some opportunities to buy people out of extenuating circumstances like that. And then we just had other people would call us and say, hey, I'm a tired landlord, or I have this house that's been vacant. We've already moved. Would you be interested in buying it? So by virtue of being in the business, we started to get opportunities that would come across our desk to purchase properties. And so, we would buy a house here and hold it, or we buy and flip it. And so, yeah, we were coming across opportunities, and based on the opportunity, we'd either take it down, or sometimes we'd wholesale it to another investor or another colleague.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great, that's interesting to hear you say that. And it's cool that you kind of recognize that and talk about it. Cause I think that's where a lot of people miss it, is you talking about getting leads and deals just by virtue of being in the business all day, every day. Right. Which is what we do. We own a real estate brokerage and have a lot of other things going on, but it's just all the time real estate. And then therefore, if we wanted to, we wouldn't even have to do direct to seller marketing or anything like that to get leads, just because it comes. But I think a lot of people miss that. Like, it's hard for those who want to start investing in real estate, it's hard to get, a motivated seller lead when you're sitting at your desk at Amazon, for example.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And, I think, I'm a big proponent of, so I always tell people, be wary of a person's perspective or lens when you're learning from them. And when, in real estate education, you hear mostly, okay, go be a wholesaler and start flipping houses. Start flipping contracts or houses. That's the easiest way to get in real estate. And I always tell people, pay attention to the personality type of the person that's saying that. 9 times out of 10, not 9 times out of 10, but a lot of cases, like for me, the people, I'm not a great wholesaler by default of personality type. I'm only able to wholesale and be effective with it when I wholesale. Number one, I don't want to wholesale anything. Generally, we want to keep any great deal we find, we want to do it in-house unless it's totally outside of our buy box. But those opportunities are created as a result of some of the activities that we have that are going on and the kind of reputation that we have. But just inherently as a wholesaler, like for me, wholesaling, you have to try and negotiate the lowest possible price generally to get the deal. When I go in to buy houses, I generally try and pay as much as I can, which is diametrically opposed to what you would be as a wholesaler. Now, the reason for that is I buy in inner city gentrifying neighborhoods that are like my neighborhood where I grew up. And so I understand the profile of the owner who's selling that property. And I understand that generally it's multiple heirs. This property has been in the family for, 60, 70, 80, 90 years in certain cases. And so for me, I don't put my profit ahead of, I think it can be a win-win deal. So to me, if you were to tell me as a brand new investor, wholesaling is the best way to get started, that'd be a recipe for failure because I'm not built naturally to excel in that particular space. So I think it's important for people, number one, to figure out who you are as a person, number one. Then you determine, based on understanding all the different lanes in real estate, which one of these lanes is going to allow you to achieve the goals that you have that you've identified for real estate. You guys have a brokerage. Everybody doesn't need a brokerage, or you may not need to be an agent. You may be great at sourcing loans and be effective in that place. Or maybe you're just, go be an investor and buy and hold, or maybe buying apartments, or maybe you're, going to do some other method. So I think you got to figure out a little bit about yourself, number one. Then educate yourself on the different opportunities in real estate, and then align yourself with the opportunities that are most congruent with who you are as a person.
Yeah, I agree completely. Wholesaling's definitely not for everybody. I mean, we love it. Like it's just doing deals for us, right? But
Right.
we do a lot of different things. We got the brokerage. We have a construction company as well. We've got an acquisitions company that will either keep the houses as buy and holds. We'll keep them. We'll flip them. Maybe we dispose of them and wholesale them. We got a real estate fund that we're starting. We'll buy storage units, mobile home parks, commercial multifamily,
Right.
single family rentals, duplexes, quadplexes. We just love everything about real estate. And our motto
Thank
has been like not choose one, but it's all about value and it's all about good deals and it's all about creating value. And if we can seize that in all these different areas, then the opportunities are almost endless for us because we're not limited just right here in this lane.
Exactly. No, I 100% agree. And, we have a similar track, obviously we have a home building company, we have a development company, we have a design company, and within our home building company, that's new construction as well as renovation. And so I believe that, to me, like what you're saying, it's all just real estate. But see, we're at a level of mastery now. Imagine if you tried to do that when you first got started, right? Have these different verticals. And so as you master one thing, it's easy because you're already in motion. So it's easy to add something that is already within the wheelhouse of what it is you're doing. And that's, that's kind of, I call it reptile brain, which is a phrase I got from Ron LeGrand, who's one of the old school real estate mentors and trainees. We used to always talk about, like once you get into this world of real estate, it's hard to just do one thing because the premise is the same. It may it could just be a mobile home park, or maybe it's an apartment complex or my wife got me distracted for a second. Maybe we're doing a podcast. But once you get into the business now and you understand the basic principles, it's easy to be successful in any of the different lanes that you choose or do multiple at the same time, like what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's beautiful when they all work together. They're all in this little ecosystem that you create. They all feed each other leads. They all grow together and they all help hold each other up.
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, there are opportunities where, my wife's a broker now and we have a team of agents. And so our running joke is I'm her biggest client, so from a referral perspective, because of the amount of deals that we create just by, virtue of doing the building and the renovation and the other things we do or design for someone or whatever the case may be. So we're able to feed our real estate team by virtue of what we're doing with buying and or building houses. And likewise, that our buying and building houses is fed by the real estate agents on our team who are finding deals, whether it's on the MLS or pre-MLS, or they taking a listing and, they call us, say, well, hey, we're going to put this on the MLS right now. Here's an opportunity that may fit. And so, yeah, they kind of synergistically all coincide and work with one another.
Yep. And it's beautiful when it all comes together like that. So you started flipping homes. You're in the mortgage business, wife, real estate agent, now broker. You started flipping homes. You said ultimately your goal is to do everything in house, try and keep it. Y'all did that first development. Where since 2005 and since you kind of first got started, to where you're at now, what's been the journey so far?
So, as with all success stories, it's never a straight line up to the top, right? So there's, all these different iterations. And so, so to kind of give a little bit of backstory and context. So like, because if I'm a listener and say, well, dang, you said you were going to build 14, you only built 2, like what happened there? So what happened was, number one, I was undercapitalized. Number two, I didn't have partners. Which those kind of fall into the same case. And to give an example, so the people that I bought this land from, one of the partners was worth $23 million. So there was no need financially for the other partners. However, one of the guys was a dentist, but and I learned this after the fact, his only reason, only because he was a dentist, one of the guys he went to undergrad with, worked in the city now. So this was a piece of dirt that had to be replatted. So his contribution was, hey, go have an off bar conversation with your colleague from college and help us get this pushed through. Another guy was just the point person. So he was the person I met with who was always on site, who handled all the dirty work. He was the person with the building experience. And then there was another person who was a attorney. So he was the legal partner. So he handled all the, and in hindsight, I look back at that and I say, wow, that is a partnership. That's how you do it. And so that was the first lesson, is I was undercapitalized and I didn't understand the power of partnership. I had the He-Man syndrome. I can do this myself. I'm Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was able to find a project, finance it, to get it all set up. But there were still other facets of the business that I hadn't mastered that I could have leveraged via partnership. I also learned a very valuable lesson about me as a person in terms of what kind of builder or developer I wanted to be. So that was a development project. So that was a project where my primary duty should have been managing, making sure that all bills are being paid, capital raising is transpiring, and the project is moving along. So basically managing the managers. I love the minutia of construction. So I love, being out there with the framers, foundation guys. I love the design component of, exactly what the cabinets were going to look like, what size the trim was going to be, and things of this nature. So I focused on all of this detail work, which should have been the job of my project manager, whereas I should have been having my developer hat on. So that was another lesson, is understanding that for where I was at that time of my life, I shouldn't have been doing a huge development. I should have found one vacant lot and built one house, because I wanted to focus on all this minutia, which it was much bigger things that were more important than that minutia. So after that learning lesson, and a lot of other lessons I learned from that, another valuable lesson I learned is a lot of times we focus on what I call the price versus cost conundrum. So I had a builder that, when I originally set that project up, a master builder, tremendous builder guy, I know to this day. And so the vision was to have him build the first couple of houses so that I could totally learn the space, then build out the remainder. Well, he wanted to charge me $50,000 to build the first house, which I just couldn't accept that number. And it's a high number to build a house. That house was 1,710 square feet, and it was a custom home in a really nice part of town, but still $50,000 was just a lot of money. It was probably about a 25%, probably about a 25% fee on that. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to pay that fee. In hindsight, I should have paid the fee, because it would have, for me to pay him $50,000 to learn everything he knew, would have been a steal. But in my mind, I was focused on the price versus what was it going to cost me to not have someone that valuable on my project. Mm-hmm. Price versus conundrum. So that was another lesson I learned, is understanding when to pay a premium for the knowledge or wisdom that I desire or need to be successful in whatever it is I'm doing. And so after that project, we recuperated financially, and dust myself off, continued to do business. And what I began to do then, we still had our mortgage company at that time. We still had a fairly large real estate team. And, so went back, kept the cash flow going, and just went back, started buying me some more houses and flip a couple of more houses. And then shortly after that, we went into like 08, 09 crash. And during that time frame, which leads into another long drawn out story, but me and a buddy of mine, so it's foreclosures everywhere during that time period. So we bought a bus and wrapped it in, it was Houston, Tour Houston Foreclosures, I think, .com. And so we bought a bus, wrapped it, and my business partner at the time had the HUD contract. So all the HUD homes, any FHA loan that foreclosed, we were the listing. Our office was a listing office. So we have 70, 80 listings at a time. So we had a bus that we wrapped, and we take investors and home buyers out on the weekends to look at properties. And that led to, back then, the Flip This House show they had created a pilot show called Deals on the Bus, where it was a guy in California, us in Texas, and maybe a couple other parts of the country where we saw this guy in California. And so we copied the idea, and other people did it as well. So we did a cool little pilot for Flip This House years and years and years ago. So it's a nice little sidebar. And from then,
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's a great idea. I love that.
Hey, next crash, we'll probably do something again similar, but it was so fun. And I mean, we still have clients that we sold houses to, or that did business with us back then, from back during that time frame. It's so funny. And it's so funny because the bus was like $5,000. We almost paid more for the wrap. I think the wrap was $2,700. So the wrap was almost more than a little bus.
Mm-hmm.
Funny. But and so then after that, I mean, I had invested in some other businesses as well right after the crash. And so we had some other things that we were running, but we always kept doing some real estate. And then probably around 2000 and let's see, here's 2021. So probably towards 2013, 2014, I'm 40. I just turned 48. So at that time I was turning 40 and I started kind of looking at, what am I going to spend the rest of my years doing? Because after 08, 09, I transitioned out of, or I just closed our mortgage company because a couple of factors. One, my wife used to always tell me I should spend less time in our mortgage company and more time buying deals and focusing on the real estate side of our business, which I ain't listen like most husbands don't. So finally, I started to pay attention once they started to change the fee structures in mortgage, because basically you were doing triple the work for about half the pay. So it's like, well, I'm good on mortgages. Let me just focus on real estate. So we started building up our portfolio. And prior to 2013, 2014, the market was doing really good, relatively speaking. So we thought the market was kind of peaking out. So we sold most of our portfolio, say, hey, we'll start over. So we'll let things settle down, start over. Well, lo and behold, the market has only skyrocketed since then. So we said, well, let's just start back buying. But I set up around 2014, towards the end of 2013, going into 2014, I set up my company, Houston Vintage Homes, with the mission to go back into inner city Houston and other neighborhoods like it to redevelop these communities. One, because this is, in hindsight, this is something that I used to dream about as a kid. Now, at the time, I didn't necessarily remember it. But as I reflect and I've done interviews and stuff like this, I start remembering stuff that I had forgotten, and it brought me back to certain things. And so I set up Houston Vintage Homes. Our mission is to reshape the face of inner city Houston, one home at a time. And I can honestly say, from the moment I was solely focused on doing what I was most passionate about as it relates to real estate, I've had the most success, made the most money, had the most fun of my entire career.
That's awesome, man. And I was going to ask you about the mission, because you're wearing the Buy the Block Back t-shirt, and
Yeah,
you're talking about, inner city Houston. And so tell us a little bit more about, having this dream as a kid and what you're doing now. Tell us more about the mission.
Sure. So, life is very serendipitous. And what I mean by that is I can remember, so neighborhood I'm from is called Fifth Ward. It's east of downtown Houston. When I was in first, second grade, we used to, I'm dating myself. We had a clothesline in our backyard. See, I grew up in the real hood. This wasn't the rap hood. This the real hood. So I'd hop on the clothesline so that I could jump on the back of my house, and I'd sit on top of my house and look at the downtown skyline and just daydream. Now I'm in elementary school, and then you fast forward to middle school. My sister got a Habitat house, and in order to get a Habitat house from Habitat for Humanity, you had to volunteer a couple of 100 hours. So I'd always volunteer. Most of the family didn't want to go because you're working on a house. It was the coolest thing in the world to me, and I'll never forget the moment I realized how simple it was to build a house. Because, they brought us out there after they had framed the house. So you had a rough end frame, and I literally helped them put on sheathing, which they were putting this little fiberboard sheathing on the house, which that blew me away. I'm like, this thing is going to fall over.
Right.
Like, this is nothing. But that was where I learned the simplicity of home building. And so I never forgot that. And then once I got my license, I remembered all this stuff once I got into the industry. But I used to go and pick up my buddies. Houston's fairly large and wide, as you know. So, we're inside the city, but when we go out to the suburbs, I might see a house. So when I got to borrow my mom's car for the weekend, I get my buddies say, man, let me take you to this house I saw way on the other side of town. So when I look back, it was always in my blood. It was meant that I be in real estate. So once I came to the point of, really setting up what I call a mission-based company, it was all of these memories that were at the forefront of my mind. And I said, I want to create an environment for the kid that was like me, but the house we bought wasn't a tight crib. It was just, they just sold us what was there. It wasn't nice. It wasn't amazing. So I wanted to go back to those same communities, but build nice, amazing houses. And so one of our philosophies with our rental properties is our rentals don't look like rentals. Because where I grew up, if you could look at the house and tell it was a rental. Where our houses that we build, I design it so that it rivals a house that isn't a rental, because that meant something to me. And so that's a part of our mission, is reshaping the face of inner city Houston and affordable housing. Usually when you see affordable housing, you can look at it and tell, oh, that's affordable housing development. Well, that's a part of the issue. It shouldn't look like affordable housing, right? It should look, in my opinion, nicer now. And that's coming from a person who's lived in these type of properties. So I felt I could wait on bureaucracy or the government or, have opinions about what's happening, or I could get active and be a part of creating a solution. And so I chose to do the latter. And so the funny part is this is before buying into, buy back the block. Rick Ross made a song about it and it became popular within the urban community. But I was doing that long before. I bought my first lot in my community in 2006, paid $7,000 for it. Fast forward to last year, 2020, we bought a lot a few blocks down. It was 110. So that shows you the value increase in that area over the last 15 years. The other thing that fueled my desire to redevelop our communities is I didn't understand the data behind it, and I didn't know all the stuff I know about it now. I just knew that when I looked at downtown Houston, my neighborhood that I grew up in, which is east of downtown, was the only surrounding area that hadn't been made nicer. So it just made sense to me that at some point, development's going to come this way, because all the other areas around downtown Houston had already been developed. And so I knew that I was on a gold mine, and I had the benefit of buying that lot in 2006 and watching how values had gone from 7,000 to now. If I wanted to buy a lot in that same community today, it's about 125,000 for a vacant 50 by 100 lot right now. So I set up Houston Vintage Homes to focus in on these areas and just start buying old raggedy houses and lots in the hood.
I love it, man. Do you do any type of mentoring for yourself when you were a kid?
Sure.
Nowadays?
So yes, we do. So one of the things we like to do is, so there was a program called Junior Achievement where they would bring in professionals from corporate arenas into the schools to talk to kids. And so I never forgot that. So I felt like once I got some success, I'd do the same. So what we started to do is around the schools, we'd find a school around the properties we were renovating, and we'll go and volunteer. And usually, I'll go in and speak, and I had to go and present to the principals or the administrators first and share with them what I'm doing. And basically through that, because what I want to do is, one of our missions with what we're doing from a development perspective is more on the economic development side. And we're working with some cities to help do this, but we got to get more people into the trades, right? Because there are a large number of kids that won't ever go to college, but they see the guy that's the plumber driving by in a van, and all they see is a guy in a dirty van. They're not understanding this guy probably makes triple what their parents make who went to college somewhere. Mm-hmm. Or they see an electrician driving an old pickup and it's raggedy and dusty, but they don't understand that that electrician is probably going to do 450 grand out of one van with a helper. So in our mentoring, we want to help introduce real estate to our youth so that they can start thinking about it from a career path perspective. The second thing is open up some of the different opportunities outside of being an investor, outside of being a realtor or a builder. You could also be the person who kind of supplies the picks and shovels, which is plumbing, electrical, HVAC, carpentry. I mean, these are careers that people kind of forget about, but it's also part of why we have such a huge housing crisis, because we don't even have enough people to build the housing that we need right now. And then there are people in these areas, a lot of areas we service, where you have people that are coming back into society that are looking for careers. Whatever they were doing before wasn't working and things of that nature. So we're doing mentoring at the middle school level, some high school, and then even some things beyond high school just for adults to get them back into the space. So we've had several people who we've introduced into real estate careers. They've now become carpenters. Have at least 3 guys that are now HVAC technicians because, they were introduced by something that we did. And so that's a a very gratifying part of what we do.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I think all that is amazing. And it aligns with our, values and what we believe in. Um, Matt and I, we've known each other since we were like 8 years old.
Wow.
I was his younger brother's best friend growing up. And so, but it's really interesting. And I've been thinking about this a lot recently. But I mean, our core values for our brokerage are opportunity for everyone. We believe no matter who you are, where you're from, what your current story is, what your background is, everybody has the opportunity to be successful in real estate. There's no secrets. You don't need this, that, or the other. It just requires
Right.
hard work, right?
Exactly.
We believe in with, not for, and working with people, not for people, or vice versa for our agents. You got to have a no fear attitude to kind of do what we do. Not that you won't experience fear, but be willing to walk through that and come out the other side, right?
Right.
And then our core focus is in and on. We believe in making money in real estate as a lender, as an agent, as a broker, and making money on real estate as an investor. And like I didn't go to college. I grew up in a good area and I had a good family, but I took the complete bad path.
You're a rebel. You're a rebel.
I was a rebel, and by the time I was 21, I was a full-blown heroin addict. And and I got sober, but like it goes to show that anybody that's done anything can be successful in real estate. And everywhere I go, I wish that people were presenting the opportunity or were willing to take a risk on an opportunity like this. Like I was going to the post office the other day, dropping off some mailers, and there's two guys in there. It's like 8:30 a.m. They're talking about basketball, and then they're talking about like cryptocurrencies or whatever. And I was just thinking, man, like what do they make? I don't know, but maybe 18, 20 bucks an hour, something along those lines. They probably get some good benefits from having, a job with the government.
Right.
But maybe if they came and gave us, 10 hours a day for 6 months and solely focused on helping us find deals, they could be a millionaire in a year. Right. And all it takes is just a little bit of hard work and the knowledge that this is accessible to everybody, and that it doesn't matter what neighborhood you grew up in or what path you were on. This is available and it changes people's lives. I mean, it changed mine.
Most certainly. It's changed mine, and it's allowed me to be a vessel of change for others as it has done for you. And, it's contributed so much to my life in the context of other tremendous people like you and Matt that I've met that are all around the country. So obviously you guys are right up the street, but, I can literally fly to my wife says all the time, like, she's like, you can travel every other weekend and be in a different city and hang out with cool people. And it's funny because that was a prayer of mine. There was a point in time in life I said, I endeavored to have what I call a familial network all around the country of tremendous people I could hang out with and we could do life. And so and because real estate's everywhere, it's like we just drop down the city and go around, look at houses, look for deals and things of that nature. So no, I agree 100%. There are very few industries that offer someone with not a lot of education or not a particular background, or maybe you don't have a certain pedigree or whatever it is. You can literally outwork any financial, social deficit that you may have.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. And so I just love what y'all are doing with the inner city and buying the block back and doing all this mentoring for kids and people who are looking to, better themselves or hopefully, have some sort of career path in real estate, whether it's agent on your team there in Houston or working for your construction company or one of your subcontractors, plumbing or electrical, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, we're excited and about the future really. And just, the coolest thing to me about real estate is, and even where we are, and I think most of us that are in the business really doing it can agree, is that you can wake up on any given day and start and redefine yourself. You're still in real estate, but redefine yourself. I've spent the last couple of years not so much building our personal portfolio as I have been building a base for us to do some of the development work that we're now in development stages of doing in different cities. Because initially the vision, when I set up Houston Vintage Homes, I had the thought to reach the vision, or the vision and mission for the company truly was to reshape the face of inner city America. At the time, I didn't have the belief in myself or the faith to espouse that. So I said, let me shrink it down to what I can wrap my mind around, which is I can do Houston.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And over time, I started to see how me not having the guts to really go after the national vision and mission was, one, holding me back, but it was also robbing communities that need the deposit that I and or other people that I could maybe affect or influence have. And so then I started to understand how me playing small ball isn't beneficial. And so I started making changes within how we structure our business and really just building the proper infrastructure so that we could really have the national impact that we've been called to do. So I'm really excited about that. It still gives me the butterflies in my stomach when I think about it, and just some of the things, some of the conversations we're having, some of the things that we're doing. But, it's what we were meant to do, and I'm excited to do it.
I love it, man. I believe in you. I believe you're going to go national, then global. And then as soon as Elon gets to Mars, you're going to go reshape the face of Mars.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about, my man. Man, that's hard, man. Most certainly, man. It's what it's all about. And the reason why I wanted to share that particularly is because so many times I think what happens when we look at one of the issues, what happens is I think we have such a real estate sometimes is taught with such a narrow view. It amazes me when people say, people tend to teach that whatever they do is the best way to get into real estate or the best way to do real estate. I always tell people, no, that's not the case. Like, don't do what I do. I go to I buy the worst house. I go after the hardest houses, but I'm weird and I'm crazy. And I acknowledge that. Don't beat me. You can go buy nice, pretty houses, or go buy apartments, or go buy other assets that maybe don't require this type of headache. Now, there's a challenge to be overcoming all of them. So it's none of them are a cakewalk. But again, figure out what really floats your boat, what gets you excited, what makes you, there was a time in my life where my wife and I structured our entire lives to be able to wake up at 10:30, 11 o'clock and not have to do anything, didn't have to be anywhere, and so on and so forth. And that was fun for a couple of months. Then once you, get tired of being lazy, then you start, wanting to do something. Nowadays, I wake up at on average 5:30, 6 o'clock without an alarm clock. Like I naturally wake up ready to go because I'm truly excited to go and get my day started, to, go out and impact and do something really cool, go walk a old raggedy house, or sit down with the pad, design some cool, affordable build to rent development that we're working on, or whatever the case may be. So, once you can kind of figure out at least one lane to get into real estate, you don't have to stay there. You can grow, you can pivot, you can, learn and investigate new things. And so it's an exciting space to be in.
Absolutely, man. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to, because it's not about money, right? Like all this success and growth that we're talking about, it's not about money. The money just allows us to grow things larger and to go impact more people and to go, build everything out more. But it's really about, for me personally, it's just about like building. That's just what I love doing, is building, right. building. And then like once it's built, like I don't want to maintain it. I just want to go build something else, And so it's all about building. I don't know if I could ever, I don't know if you'll ever, hear me say, I'll be 85 years old. I won't be sleeping till 11. I'll be knocking on your door, seeing if you want to sell me and my grandson your property,
It's funny. So I talk to, I got some younger investors I like to hang out with because they keep me young, and they have these really big dreams. And when I'm saying, man, I never hear you talk about what your financial goal is. I said, well, I don't build my life around a number. I've lived long enough and have enough experiences where I've just seen, I know people that the number is a fleeting goal to me. You know what I mean? Because once you get that number, there's another number bigger than that makes that one small and minuscule. So if you'll spend your life chasing a number. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in having 50,000 units or whatever it is. I love the art of creating. I love the beauty in taking the most dilapidated structure. Like literally people call me when they know it's a teardown, but my is we don't tear down houses in the hood. So even though you think it's a tear down, I'm not going to tear it down. But when you come back in 4 to 5 months, you're going to be blown away by what it looks like. That process never gets tiring to me. Walking up to a vacant lot and then on the theater of my imagination, crafting a vision for what could be on that lot, transferring it to paper, getting the city to say it's approvable, and then building it, like that entire process and what that entails never gets old. It never gets tiring. Now, managing some of the minutia does.
Right. The
but
maintaining.
yeah, exactly what we're talking about, that maintaining part. But just that whole creative part, man, like that is so exciting to me. And so that's what even excites me about doing projects around the country now, is because now I get all these different canvases that have different things and different moving pieces that get to contribute to what we have to think about in order to create something amazing. So yeah, I just feel blessed and fortunate. And to your point that you made earlier, like real estate really is an amazing industry for anyone that truly has the desire and the work ethic, because it's going to be work. You don't make the kind of money that real estate will afford you or create the kind of wealth that you can happen here without it being work. But and it's a hard work, but it's what I call smart hard work. So it's not like grunt hard. It's just hard because there are the emotional and the financial things that happen around it. Like we're in the problem solving business. I tell people real estate is a problem solving business built around people that involves a house or a piece of land.
Right.
And so when you understand that those first two layers are problems and people, the real estate is still important, but the two things that create the most opportunity are the problems that we're solving and the people we're impacting as we solve those problems.
Right. Absolutely. That's it. I was thinking about it today. Problem solving. I mean, yesterday there was a bunch of fires that had to be put out. And Matt and I handle like two different sides of the business. He's all business development and relationships. He wants to go to meetings. He mostly does these podcasts.
Okay.
He wants to go out and meet people and build relationships for us and recruit and sales. And like, I'm good at sales, but I'd really rather just be behind my computer in the office by myself, building something, right? Setting up the structure, the infrastructure, everything. And I was thinking about,
operations.
Yeah, operations. And I was thinking about it today. I was like, I'm just a good problem solver, I guess. Like that's what it is. That's all it is just solving problems.
You say he's like, you know what, Self? You pretty good at solving problems, Self. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Cause we talk about it a lot. Like, what's the one thing that each of us is good at? And let's just focus in on that. And like Matt loves the relationship side of things. And like, I'm not like amazing at software, but I can figure it out. Like I'm not amazing at building out training programs, but I'll figure it out. But mostly all that stuff is just solving problems at its base, right? At its core.
Most certainly. It's part of why I set up our design company is, well, two reasons, twofold. One, I got tired of paying architects to put into software what I already designed. I already did all the thinking. I just sketched it out on a sheet of paper. Now, I didn't go to school. I didn't go to college to learn how to, do CAD or take a class or something. So I ain't have that part. But so that was the first reason. Then the second part was I'm truly good at creating and seeing the unseen. And so that, and that's really been a huge pivot point for us, because once I set up that company, it was amazing some of the opportunities that began to open up because other people recognize and say, hey, listen, we're trying to build this. Can you design something here? Or, if you could bring that model over, we're not in Houston, we're way on the other side of the country, but what you did over there, that could work here. Or how could you make that work and design that for where we are? So I figured out a little while ago that, dude, you're pretty good at this design thing, especially within this realm of affordable housing and whatnot. So, we've just kind of zeroed in on it a little bit. So all the other things are still doing what they're doing, but I'm really excited about the growth there.
Good, man. Well, it's really exciting, and y'all are doing a bunch of amazing things. Couple questions for you while we wrap this up. First one is what advice would you give to someone who's looking to get started today, who's watched your podcast, who's listened to our podcast, they've read the books, they do it all, but they just haven't taken that step?
Go out there. Well, the advice I would say, if they've done all that, now it's time to go out there and find a button, kick it. right? So it's like you can have your foot on the brake doing all the research and your other foot on the gas and keep in what I call getting ready to get ready. But at some point you're gonna have to jump off the bridge or jump off the mountain or whatever it is and grow those wings. And there is something that you don't know right now that you're gonna learn in the process. So you'll never know it all before you take action. So if I take it and summarize all of that down to 2 words, it's take action on all the knowledge and the things that you've already acquired.
Awesome. Simple as that.
Take action.
Heard it here first. All right.
Right.
Second question is how can people learn more about your businesses, your design company, your construction company, your mission and what you're looking to do, nationwide and then eventually on Mars? How can everybody find out more about it?
So I tend to, if you look up Houston Vintage Homes on Instagram is where I'm probably most active. Especially visually. I have my most engaging conversations on Twitter. So you can follow me on Twitter, Tyron McDaniel, or the Urban CEO. My design firm is Urban Vintage Designs. You can also find us on Instagram, and we have a website for Houston Vintage Homes and Urban Vintage Designs as well. So those are the best ways to reach us and keep tabs on what we got going on.
Cool. Well, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on, sharing your vision and all your experience and expertise.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir.
All right.